You have fungus in your yard. You go to your local hardware store. You notice a Bio-Advance product for $23, and you notice a Spectricide product for $18. You look at them, and both of them treat 5,000 square feet, and you think, wow, the Spectricide product, I'll get it and save myself $5. But you didn't look at the details. Maybe you missed it. The Bio-Advance product controls fungus for 28 days, according to the label. If you look at the label on the Spectricide product, it treats fungus for only 14. So, in order to get 28 days of control, I only need one container of the Bio-Advance, but I will need 2 of the Spectricide, making my cost for fungicide control in my yard that month $36 with the Spectricide and only $23 with the Bio-Advance. That's what this video is going to do for you. I've broken them all down to give you an apples-to-apples comparison of how much fungus control actually costs for your yard. We're also going to talk about disease resistance. This is something that I've seen post after post after post online of folks putting out a product initially and using it over and over and over again, and now it's not working the way it used to. I'm going to explain why that is and how to overcome it. We're also going to talk about proper application of both granular, hose adapter, and backpack sprayers, and we're also going to go over products that you can find online that are labeled for home lawn application and what those could be utilized. Okay, so we're going to cover all that in this video. Now what I would like to do, I want to do a little bit of disease identification. Oftentimes you come across a little spot of grass in your yard that's a little brown or looks a little weird, or the leaves are twisted, or maybe it's discolored like a red or a pink. Morning is when you're going to come out here and you're going to confirm if it's a fungus. So what happens when it's dewy like this? The mycelia, which is the reproductive structures of the fungus, are actually out. During the day, when the sun comes out and it dries up a bit, those mycelia go away, and they're very, very difficult to see. So in the morning is when I want to come out here. I want to look and I want to confirm if I have a fungus or not. And here we go. We found some spots, and I'll use the word spot carefully. But if we look down, we can see these little white mycelia is what they are. Those are the reproductive structures of the fungus. This happens to be dollar spot. How do I know that? Well, I'm an agronomist and I know that. But you can also identify it, because if you look, it's spots, spot, 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 spot.
Got some red thread working here, and you can see where I'm holding it, kind of how the leaf is beginning to get attacked by the fungus. This is not a devastating disease, but it can, can look unsightly.
This is Pythium, very aggressive fungus. You can see the mycelia, very similar to dollar spot, and it can actually be mistaken for dollar spot. I'll put a photo up in the upper left so you can see the difference. The difference is primarily as Pythium attacks a larger area, where dollar spot, if you look at the leaves, it's more of a straw color, where Pythium is more of a gray where it attacks the plant. See it online a lot? I've actually been asked. I put out the fungicide and it didn't work. I'll explain why. Or I also hear I put it out the first time and it did really great, and the second time it did pretty good, and then the third time it didn't work at all. I'm going to explain all that here. Let's take, for example, a very good quality product, Scott's Disease EX. Available about every hardware store you can possibly get. Good quality product from Scott's, but I have seen posts, well, it didn't work. Few reasons why. You've got to understand on fungicides, they generally have a curative and preventative rate. This is one of them. This says it treats 5,000 square feet, and that's usually where people just go, oh, 5,000 square feet, do the quick math, go out, put it on my 5,000 square foot yard, only need one bag. If you have active fungus, if you look at the back of the bag, you will see a preventative and curative rate. Preventative rates mean all good in the neighborhood. You have no fungus. So you're going to put this out at the 2-pound rate. So this 10-pound bag will indeed do 5,000 square feet. However, if you have active fungus, you have to go out at the curative rate. So now a bag of Scott's Disease EX that did treat 5,000 square feet will only treat 2,500. You have to read the labels on these things to make sure you are putting it out either at the preventative and curative rate. Another thing fungicides will do, and these group 3 fungicides, get to groups here in a second, generally they will say treat 28 days, but if you have active fungus, they'll only treat for 14 days, or you need to follow up 14 days later. That's one of the reasons why you're getting these fungicide failures. I will also say, let's do this. Let's talk about how fungicides move too, particularly on these granular products. These are good products. Problem is, there again, read the label on these things. This is why it's so important, because this is $23. You probably will need 2 of them to treat your yard. And you got to water these in. On these liquid products, okay, there's a spray volume. Why? Spray volume basically is the amount of product that's coming out of the sprayer, okay, mixed with water. That's the volume you're putting out per 1,000 square feet. So why is that important? Fungicides move in the plant through the xylem, which goes up, or the phloem, which goes down. There's only one product that is for Pythium control. It is not labeled for home lawn use that I am aware of, and I think it's the only one that actually moves up and down through both the xylem and the phloem of the plant. These products, okay, group 11, okay, for Pythium control, the group 3s, and the groups 11 for dollar spot, brown patch, red thread, several others, they only move upward in the plant. They will not move down. There's plant physiology behind that, and that's beyond the scope of this video. So that is why they are telling you on these granular products to water them in within 24 hours to activate it. So that way it gets near the bottom of the plant and works its way up through the leaf. On these, the spray volume, they want you to coat that leaf properly so it goes all the way through the leaf. If not, if you don't put enough spray volume, you're only going to get it at the top, and that's all it's going to control. And it's going to be susceptible to it. Okay, let's talk about groups. What do we mean by groups? You have fungicide active ingredients, and they are categorized into groups. How they categorize them is based on their mode of action. Okay, so though there are different active ingredients, all of those in that group control the fungus, have the mode of action in all the same way. So, for example, you have a group 3 fungicide, which is a propicanosol and microbutanol, 2 different types of fungus, same mode of action. What's the problem with that? COVID's about the best way I can describe this. You had some people that come to it. You had some people that got the sniffles, and wasn't a big deal. They got it. And then you had other people that didn't get it at all. In fact, I didn't get it at all. I was exposed to it multiple times. I kissed my wife goodbye that morning, and she called me later that morning, said she was diagnosed. So conceivably, I'm one of the goofballs that at least immune to that strain. Doesn't bother me a bit. You have that with fungus. So you put out a fungus, generally, well, just about almost always, that fungus, in order to get approved, had to have efficacy data. In other words, it has to be able to work. So it is going to, first time you use it, it is going to control probably 90-95% of the fungus that you have. And anytime you put out fungicide, you are not killing all the fungus. You're only bringing it below a threshold that the turf can still be healthy and survive. You will have fungus left in your yard after you put a fungicide out. That is true with insecticides. That is true to some extent with herbicides. But definitely with insecticides and fungicides, you will put it out. You're just reducing the population. You're not killing it all. Just not. For the reasons I just spoke about as far as the COVID example. So anyway, used the first time, you get good efficacy. But the problem is the ones that are really susceptible to it, there's less of them around. And there's more of them that get the sniffles and that are not, that are pretty much immune to it. Those are the ones where the population increases because they're still hanging out. They can still reproduce. Second time you use it, probably get below that threshold again, though you're going to have a lot more of the immune and the sniffles. Third time you use it, you're going to have a very high population of those that are completely totally immune because they've been hanging out, they can reproduce, and the ones with the sniffles, they're even higher population, and now you're above the threshold that the turf can actually live through it. So you have to rotate different groups that have different modes of action on that fungus in order to control the ones that are immune to that particular group. Now, this is not a big deal for the majority of fungus. Okay? Red thread, brown patch, take all patch, number of others. Okay? Smuts, powdery mildew, leaf spot, pink patch, etc., so on and so forth. I'm just kind of looking at it. There's a ton of them. Generally, your group 3 and group 1 and group 11 control all those others. The issue is dollar spot. The group 11s, there's the ZZX, and that's why I kind of went over dollar spot versus Pythium here. It does not control dollar spot. This will not do a thing for dollar spot. That's why I wanted you to be able to see what you have. The group 3s do. Problem is, it only has one mode of action on dollar spot. It can get disease resistance rather readily. And this is one of the reasons why I've seen online a number of posts. I used it the first time it worked, used it the second time it worked, now I've used it again, and it's not working. Also, that why explicitly says on the label these group 3 fungicides, almost all of them, do not use more than 3 times in a row without introducing a new, different group of fungicides with a different mode of action for the turf area. That's why you have to go to a group 1. Biphenate methyl, okay, is the active ingredient, and I'll go over what those are here in a minute. So that's what I'm saying. You have to rotate these in order for dollar spot. That's the big thing. All the other ones, if you do a very good job of putting out a group 3, and maybe you go with a group 11 because you have Pythium, you'll do fine. It's the dollar spot that's the big bugaboo. So I wanted to let you know that, so that way you understand why I'm going through these group 1 and group 3. Control everything but Pythium. And group 11 control everything but dollar spot. So you got to rotate those group 3s and group 1s. Okay, let's get to where the rubber meets the road. Money. Now, there again, we're going to go through what is the cheapest group 3 fungicide that we can put out. I wrote an article for Golf Course News, and you have to look at the cost, days of control, and the rate that you put it out at. And that will give you how much it costs to treat that area. This is based on this chart that I'm going to show you, is based on treating 5,000 square feet with this product. Okay? Here we go. Just going to run down right there. Right there it is. You can take a screenshot of it, what have you. We've got the Gunner, which gives you 28 days of control, $14.35 or $14.38 to treat 5,000 square feet with the Gunner. Select Source Propicanosol is $18.75. BioAdvanced Fungal Control on a granular is $20. The fungal control with the hose adapter is $23. The Gravex 20EX is going to run you about $27. Okay. And Insecticide Immunox Fungal Control, which is kind of like what I started off with the insecticide, is going to cost you $36 because it's only going to give you 14 days of control. So the Gunner is going to be the cheapest. Now that's the group 3 fungicides. Now group 1, we have the Talar. We have the Talaris wettable soluble powder, $25 to treat 5,000 square feet, to give you 20. These are only 14 days of control. On the group 1 fungicides, that's why the group 3 is a little cheaper to treat. You can't use it all the time. Group 3 just don't use it as much. Group 1 just don't use it as much. Okay, you can use the group 3, and then go back to group 1, then go back to group 3. You got to rotate these. What I said. The Talaris wettable soluble powder is $25, treat 5,000 square feet. The Cleary, pardon me, 3336. Used to be Cleary's 3336. If I call it Cleary's 3336, just say it's 3336. It used to be back in the day, 20 years ago. So anyway, 3336 in a flowable costs you 45. 3336 in a granular costs you 48. You see here a bit of a trend. Actually, the BioAdvance fungal control in a group 3 is not that pricey, but the granulars generally will cost you more money. Okay, and you're limited by options if you do not have a backpack sprayer. But there again, if the Gunner and the Talaris, rotating those two is your cheapest fungicide rotation that you can have. That's available on Amazon and generally available to you as for residential applications. Those are the two cheapest that you have that are available. Now let's go to Pythium. Okay, now Pythium, there again, the group 3 and the group 1 fungicides that I just went over do not control Pythium. So you have to have something for Pythium. Now, I'm only going to give you one group, and that's group 11. And the reason being is group 11 fungicides generally do not, because they have multiple modes of action. They are not as easy. Pythium will not give resistance as readily as dollar spot would on the group 1 and 3. That's about the best way I can describe it. There is, if you get resistance to Pythium, it's kind of rare. Your options are limited. There is one more chemical. I didn't include it on this because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think you need it. And 2, it's pretty expensive. Okay, for home lawn use. I'm just going to include these so you get a vibe for how much these cost. So anyway, here they are. Now the Atticus Artiva, sorry. Weird name, but actually it sounds like it's some foreign name. They're actually out of Cary, North Carolina, which is actually where the first golf, well, not the first golf course I worked at, but one of the golf course I worked at when I was in college at NC State. It's a golf course I worked at in Preston, in Prestonwood Country Club down in Cary. So it's kind of wild they're out of Cary, North Carolina. So anyway, the Atticus Artiva, which costs $14.92 a square foot. Pythium is, by the way, as a golf course superintendent, Pythium is the most expensive fungus control. That is actually a pretty good price. The Scott's Disease EX, which you have available, cost you $21. All right. To treat 5,000 square feet. And the nice thing about it, it's a good product. There again, you got to water it in, readily available. You can go out to the store and grab it. You don't have to order it online. Then you have Heritage, which you generally get online, and the Heritage G. I threw those in there because Syngenta is actually the manufacturer of the azostrobin active ingredient. The group 11 is the azostrobin product, or part of it, has an active ingredient of azostrobin. And strobiliums too. That's actually the family name for it. So your cheapest 3. If you rotate the Gunner, backpack sprayer, the Talaris, you rotate those 2. Those would be the 2 cheapest you would have for rural dollar spot and a whole host of other ones. And then go out with the Atticus Artiva, you'd be in pretty good shape. Now, those of you who only have granular or don't want to fool with a backpack sprayer, that's cool. The BioAdvance fungal control in the granular, you can go ahead and put it out. I am going to show you a chart here real quick. So let's take a look at that chart, because the thing is, those go out. Those are we talk about SGN. SGN is the size of the particle that is in the that is actually the size of the particle. Okay, you have 100, 150, and 240 SGN. That's the size of the fertilizer, fungicides, lime, etc. But generally these are around 100 SGN. Here's a chart that shows you how to set up your spreader, at least some guidance of where to start of putting up on such a fine particle product. Okay, so you have 200 to 215. That's generally your fertilizers. The 140 to 155 is generally your lime products. And the 95 to 100 SGN is your pesticides. And in this case, fungicide. So, for instance, the Scott's product, you'll see there on that to the far right, 95 to 100 SGN. The Scott's product goes out preventative rate, 2 pounds per thousand, and you just go down that column to find your fertilizer spreader on the left. and that'll give you how much to put out, 2 pounds. I think the clear goes out at 3. So if it is a 3, you got between 2 and 4 pounds. Just kind of go in between those two, and that'll give you some pretty good guidance on, or at least get you pretty close to where a starting point. Because like I said, this stuff has very fine particle size. You got your money going out there. So this will give you very good. This is the best fertilizer chart I've seen. It's from Advanced Turf Solutions, who is a distributor of turf products, and thanks to them for providing it.
Okay,
Gives your spread a setting chart. Now let's go over how to properly mix fungicides in the spray tank. And there is a technique to it. Okay, now I've already filled my tank up. This is the first thing you do. Obviously, I have a clean tank, fill it up halfway. On fungicides, you are going, essentially what these are suspendable powders, is essentially what they are. Now, the group 3s, the propiconazole and the microbutanol, not so much, but definitely the group 1s and the group 11s that I went over, they are essentially suspended wettable powders. So you need to have some agitation. I'm not too big on this. You're going to have to clean this off after you're done and try to get everything back in the tank. I don't necessarily need this on herbicides or any other products, but on fungicides I will need this agitation. Now be sure it is in the righty tighty, so that way it won't splash back up in your face. You want to give it a test while you got just water in it. Okay, that's not bad. So here's what I want to do. I'm going out with 3336. I have to have 2 gallons of spray volume per 1,000 square feet. I have a 4-gallon sprayer, so I only can treat 2,000 square feet. Then I'll have to fill back up and treat again for 2,000 square feet. To be honest with you, you can go less, but in order to get good coverage, you've got to go out with a spray volume of 2 gallons per 1,000 square feet. Also in 3336, if you notice, the maximum you can put it out at one time for residential lawn is 2 ounces per 1,000 square feet. You should be absolutely fine in doing that, even if you have fungus. This is probably about your best knockdown. If you have fungal resistance, go out with the 3336 first. Okay, so anyway, to the group 3, go out with the group 1 first. Anyway, so I'm going to start mixing, okay, and then I'm going to add this. I'm not going to dump it all in. I'm going to add it fairly slow, just to make sure I have good agitation, and that's not too bad. And believe it or not, you're going to get a paint smell. Speaking of paint, a lot of these fungicides are actually in paint, and that's where a lot of them come from. Now, what I want to do, I want to have a fairly low volume of water. 1, I don't want it splashing up in my face. 2, I don't want it putting a foam head on this, and that will cause a problem. This is not the foam. You can actually buy the foamer, and that will take the foam down. It's not quite a problem on fungicides, but it is on herbicides because of some of the surfactants that they put in the inactive ingredient. There again, I am agitating and filling at the same time. Got a little bit of foam here, but not that big a deal. So essentially, this is how you fill it. And I'm going to fill this all the way up to the 4 gallons, and then I'm going to go out and spray 2,000 square feet. I'll leave my backpack sprayer calibration video here at the end. Fungicides are generally fairly safe to put out on your yard. It won't hurt your grass. I actually had to spray 9 greens one time with a backpack sprayer because I had my sprayer went down on a golf course, had rain coming in, high humidity, and I had to get something out. And it was actually one of the best applications I've made. But this is how I do it. Not only did I want to save you money, I also want to get the word out about disease resistance. So if you like this video, please do it, or bring it up in the video recommendations for YouTube, and more people will know about disease resistance, and it'll help. At the end of the day, the grass may save maybe your own, because if your neighbor is using group 3 fungicides over and over and over again, that resistant strand of dollar spot could work its way over into your yard, because dollar spot actually moves by wind, by traffic, and by water. So anyway, do keep that in mind. Subscribe to the channel. I keep things very topical. It's the end of June, and it's about time to be putting out, actually a little bit past time, but you're getting really in the nitty-gritty after July 4th about putting out fungicides. So anyway, I appreciate you watching. I hope this was a big help. Thanks.